Tonight, your right to vote up for debate in the courts. A federal judge blocked the Texas law that requires voters to show a photo ID in order to vote. We first told you about this last night at 9 o'clock. This law can have a big impact. The U.S. Justice Department estimates 600,000 voters in Texas do not have an ID. Even if you do have one, the ruling still affects you. Only 5 million votes were cast statewide in the 2010 midterm elections, and 600,000 votes would have made a big difference. But as KXAN's Lindsey Bramson explains, some people say this ruling will only confuse voters.
The more votes, the better.
Frances Martinez spent 40 years in East Austin before moving a few miles north. She does have a voter ID, but many of her friends and family don't.
Many of the residents, many of the older generation, they don't have an ID.
With so many friends still in these neighborhoods, Frances hopes the new ruling, which doesn't force voters to show ID, will bring more people to the polls.
This will at least encourage them to come and vote. And I think that with us helping them, letting them know, look, you can come to vote.
Julian Lamone Fernandez is a candidate for Austin City Council District 3. He thinks the new law will benefit him.
Not just for me, but for all the candidates. It brings, I would say, another 20% of people to come up and come out and vote.
However, not everyone agrees. In fact, some say it will only confuse voters more and could actually decrease voter turnout.
We've already had this be the law of the land for 2 elections running in Texas, and we haven't seen any impact on voter turnout of any race or any group.
But Frances says requiring an ID to vote would most definitely impact her group.
Our vote is our voice, and we need to exercise it.
So just how many Texas voters don't have an ID? Travis County estimates 37,000 people didn't have an ID during the last election. Williamson County doesn't have estimates, but an elections administrator there says right now nothing will change. They're waiting for official documentation, and until then they are telling voters you still need your ID in order to cast your ballot. Lindsey Bramson, KXAN News.